So then, the Belgian Grand Prix. I was tempted to actually release this as a Sunday video, but given that I was reviewing it so late, I just thought better off pushing it to Monday anyways. So let's talk about it. Let's go into a little bit of depth about the Grand Prix itself. Yet again, another weekend where the changeable conditions has caused all kinds of upheaval. And this is what I love about F1. And I think this is what has actually been making 2024 great. It's not necessarily been the gap closing in terms of performance. It's been the more of the kind of unpredictability of the weekend. From, for example, some of the events that happened in Saudi Arabia and Australia. I mean, when I got to Australia, it was like, oh, hang on. This might just be like the one race that Max or Red Bull doesn't win this year. And then we got to Miami, and Lando won. And then we got to Monaco, and Leclerc won. It was like, wait, what's going on here? And then since Spain, it's just been, what is happening here? It's just been so strange, this run of races, these last 4 before the summer break. But yeah, it's if you look at each of them, it's because there's been something that's come in to affect the weekend itself. Usually something to do with changeable conditions. And it has created probably the greatest 4 races in a row of, well, pretty much of this generation anyway, the 2022 rule set. But I can't think of a Grand Prix weekend outside of 2020. In 2020 is its own kind of bubble year. That was just so full of unpredictability. Where we've had, I guess it is only 3 race winners. But they've all been powered by the same engine. None of them would want a race coming into this weekend. None of them would want a Grand Prix in at least a year and a half. So let's talk about it, because arguably it was George Russell's day today. But it wasn't to be, because he got disqualified. What did he get disqualified for? Well, it was for something that just seems so bizarre. It was for being underweight, but it's a strange one, because you could argue, I mean, the team is arguing that it was because he couldn't pick up the marbles, because Spa, you don't do a full victory lap. What you do is you just turn right and then turn right back into the pit lane. And saying that could have made up the, 1.5 kilos that he was underweight. Though I personally love the jokes about it being because he sweated too much out, or he may have gone to the toilet during the race, or too much before the race, because it is the car and driver together. But what it means is, and I've seen this as an even bigger joke, the one that Lewis Hamilton finally got that win back, a decade and a half later at Spa, and ends up getting his 2nd win of the season in his final season for Mercedes. George Russell said if it had have been this kind of performance for Merck for the last couple of years, Lewis probably wouldn't have considered leaving Ferrari. But I know that Team LH44 is a fan base saying, no, there were other factors behind this as well. And to be fair, I think it's a bit of both. I think that when it came to making the decision, it was probably based off of all the other factors. But the fact that they started thinking about it, especially so early on, was because he just was not happy at the team. And sure, the contract status and what's going on with contract negotiations will be a factor in that, but so will performances, and so will the team characteristics. And I think let's just stick with George Russell for a moment, because he very nearly could have cost the team the 1-2. Because if you look at the amount of pace that Lewis lost behind George in those final few laps, how close Piastri got to both of them, it shows that the Merc has the measure of the McLarens seemingly on these kind of speed-based tracks, which typically wasn't. I mean, it was the Mercedes power unit strong suit, but it wasn't necessarily the Mercedes car's strong suit. Though, I guess that does bode well for Monza, and potentially for Baku as well, coming to think of it. Or also, you know, Sao Paulo. But it puts him in a great place going into the second half of the season. Puts Piastri in a great place. I think he's probably been the most informed driver at the moment, bar maybe someone like Nico Hülkenberg, who the last 2 races haven't backed that up with 13th and 18th today. But yeah, it was well done by Piastri to keep that battle on and to get the measure of Sergio Perez, who, whilst he got fastest lap and ends up getting 7th place with the disqualification on Russell, was quite comfortably 7th. And given that is his 3rd 7th place finish in the past 4 races, that's his best finish in the past 4 races as well as 7th place. In fact, you have to go back to Miami to find his 4th place. And then China beforehand is his last podium. I've seen reports saying that Lawson and Ricciardo are going to have a head-to-head on a filming day, so they can decide who they want to go in alongside Perez. And be ashamed to see him dropped, especially since he literally signed a new contract this season to extend him for multi-years. But there's just not an answer to it. You can't just go, oh, it's because Max has the car built around him, because the car isn't necessarily always there. I mean, he's got a 1 podium for the past 4 races, and granted, he probably would have got a podium in Austria had he not have had the pit crew issues or driven into Lando. But he probably wouldn't do all the podium in Hungary despite Rocket Leaguing off of Lewis Hamilton. It's one of those ones where, I mean, in my preview I said both the drivers of Belgian heritage will want to perform well, but neither of them particularly did. And that's the thing, is Lando, I don't know what the Lando fan base is like these days, but I'm worried that if Lando lost the title by, say, 7 or 8 points, they'd go, oh, it's because Oscar didn't let him win in Hungary. But in reality, today was probably an even bigger issue. Because sure, it was a net 2-point loss to Max, but compared to his teammate, it was a net 8-point loss. So that gap that you could go, oh, that's the Hungary gap. Well, it's also the Belgium gap, or it's less than the Belgium gap now. So Lando just wasn't there performance-wise today. The Ferraris, now they were better as a team, and the split strategy did work out in the end. They just weren't able to get it all together in the end, either. But what it means is, going into the summer break, that Mercedes 1-2 has actually hurt them a little bit, but it's not cost them, say, a position net to Ferrari. But McLaren are now within a double DNF of catching Red Bull. And Ferrari aren't much further behind. It's building up to be a great battle at the front for those 4 teams for the remainder of the season. But really, for those 4 teams, we might get the errant 5th or 6th for one of the other 6. But that's the ebbs and flows of F1. Either you're going to have so many different teams battling for the podium, but one clearly out front, or a few teams battling right up at the front, but then the other teams squabbling over the last couple of points. Let me know your thoughts and reflections in the comment section down below. Thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.